James says, I'm confused about renovations to a property and when they are actually tax deductible. If I buy a property now and renovate it before leasing it out, are they tax deductible? Someone told me I needed to have the property available to rent first, so I actually need to advertise it and then do the renos. Also, if I spent $40,000 on carpet, blinds and a new deck and paint, is that claimable straight away or only over time? Like real money, how much do I get back?
Big one, James.
That is a lot. That's a lot, James.
But so many common questions in there and so much common distaste from a client when you see them after the fact. They're like, what? I can't claim any of this $40,000. So I'll break it down. So when you purchase the property, any repairs you do prior to having a tenant in there are not tax deductible.
Really?
And the holding costs as well, being interest rates, things like that. So if you spend 10 months renovating, you're not claiming anything immediately in your tax return. So what all of those costs do is increase the cost base of your property.
Okay, yep. So for capital gains down the track, that's relevant,
yes.
But not tax deductible in your tax return.
No,
wow. Yeah, okay.
Not at all. So then we could look at, well, James, what did you do? Okay, did we do a repair? Did we do an improvement? So very, holding hands to some of our other comments before. So I think we mentioned painting there. So if you painted the property, no tax deduction, because you've done some repairs prior to the tenant moving in. So it's, keep record.
Yeah.
Make sure. I encourage our clients to give us everything up front so that we've got the purchase, the stamp duty, all the costs plus then all those renovations. So we've got all that on file because time goes by very quickly and you can't find them. But then if we break down that $40,000, we've got carpet, we've got blinds and we've got new deck. So all of those items are capital improvements and they're depreciable assets.
Okay.
So, real money. James, I've done a little bit of a breakdown.
I would say the same thing, real money.
Yeah.
Tell me what it is.
What am I actually going to get out of this? He's probably not going to love my answer, but your $40K, I've made some assumptions. Okay, let's say we've put $12,000 into carpets, we've put $4,000 onto our blinds and our debt cost us $24,000. Okay, so holding hands with, one of the previous questions and I was saying it's around the effective life. So again, I've checked the actual ATO ones. I didn't make them up. So the carpets have an 8-year effective life in a residential property. So in the first full financial year, because it goes to number of days, but, let's just full financial year, that carpet's going to give you a tax deduction, not money, but a tax deduction of about $3,000. Your blinds, they have 15-year effective life. They'll give you a tax deduction of about $530 every year. And your deck will get written off over 40 years, 2.5% a year. So it's $600 a year. Now, that's still not cash though, James. So in that first full year of depreciation, it will become a little bit less every year, remember. You've got just over $4,000 of depreciation. If we assume a 32% tax rate, it will save you about $1,300 a year in actual tax.
That's not a lot from his $40,000.
In year one.
Year one.
And that'll be the highest year. It'll go down after that. So no, it's not much on your $40K.
Would it be different if it had been deemed repairs?
He would actually get nothing until it was a capital gains was sold. So remember that example of if you painted, that's a repair. Because you did a repair before the tenant moved in, it's added to your cost base. It's not tax deductible.
And would there be a difference? Because I can see that James is saying about when the property is actually available to rent. If he had leased the property out first and then done these renovations, would that change things?
Yeah, definitely. So my example of the carpets and the blinds and the deck would remain the same because they're still depreciable assets. But my example of the painting would actually be tax deductible because we're earning income while it happens. But it's very difficult to do these things when there's tenants in the home.
It is.
So it's sort of a bit of a mindset that chances are James will get that property at a lower value because it needs these repairs done and he's the right man to get the job done. So he's then spending that, instead of buying the property already done, he's spending still probably less, but it is a capital cost base. So just to flip onto that as well is, holding hands a bit with Jamie and the depreciation schedule. So if you're doing improvements, so if we've got an older home and we do improvements, well, you get your depreciation schedule written up. They will do a calculation of what that value is as well.
Yep.
And if James is in there, building that deck himself, chances are the depreciable value is actually more than what it cost him to build in cash. So there can be some benefits there as well.
Yeah, so the dates are very important, or when you actually do the renovations can be very important.
They can
Do you
be.
see investors do that strategically? Do you see people go, okay, I'm not going to buy this property, renovate it, and then lease it out. I'm actually going to rent it out and then do some
bits and pieces along the way. Yeah, I have, but I do question sometimes if it's to their detriment because again, if you've purchased the worst house in the best street, you don't want the worst tenant in the best street either. So who are you attracting? What level of rent are you getting in based on that? And then what quality repair can you do while there's a tenant in there? They can sort of really hinder the movement of that. So I think all facets need to be brought into account.
Do they have to have moved in, or can it just be available to rent?
The wording is available to rent, and I thought that's where you're going to before. And so what, have I seen it? Yeah, for sure. We've got, you've got your agent's contract. It was available for rent from this date, and these were the dates I'm doing these repairs. I guess it's, how legitimate does that look? How truly were you looking for tenants? We know it's not difficult to get tenants at date of recording anyway. It's not hard to get a tenant in your property these days. They don't sit empty for very long. So if you've got it at a reasonable market rate and it is truly available, would it sit vacant for months on end?
Yeah. And I have to admit, there have been a time where I have said on an investment property, it will be painted before the tenant moves in when it's getting advertised, and we had a painter go in just before the tenant moved in.
Yeah.
But then that way the tenant could choose the colour.
Yeah, there you go.
Or have some input.
Yes.